This is for you, Meredith says. What is it? Kate says in a slightly suspicious tone. It is one of the most prized relics of our people, Meredith says. It's been in our possession for more than 1,000 years. It is one of the few reminders that we still have from the age when the Lassetti still used to rule the continent. I offer this to you as an apology for all the suffering that my people have caused to you in the past. I realize that it won't make up for all those agonizing years spent in the beacon, but at the very least, it should serve as a sacrilege, shouts the Lassetti who is operating the teleporter. This is unheard of, unimaginable. Do you think that the holy scepter of Helden Busorag, I kinda get what the Lassetti is trying to say, but this is a really old relic to be just handing out to someone, one individual person. It's not like she was the leader of the entire child people. She could have given something else. I don't think this is appropriate to give. Is some cheap souvenir that you can give out to random visitors. How dare you mock our heritage in such a way? I'm not mocking anyone, Meredith says calmly. The importance that this relic has to our people is exactly what gives its value. Gives it value as an apology. There would be no point in giving it to her otherwise. I can't accept this, Kate says as she takes a step back. If it is so important to you, then you should keep it. Please take it, Meredith says as she gently grabs Kate's hand and then places the scepter in her palm. This relic would be of much more use in your hands and it would be collecting dust in our treasury. Ooh, is it a mage thing? Can she use it? In our treasury. For a mage like yourself, it should greatly help you focusing your energy during attacks. Ooh, that's good. Give it a try. Alright, Kate says hesitantly as she holds the scepter forward and she shoots an icicle into one of the walls. The icicle easily penetrates the thick ceridian walls and it goes all the way through, making a deep hole inside it. This is amazing actually because ceridian walls have been fairly hard. I'll admit that I wasn't expecting it to work so well, Kate says in an impressed tone. Normally it would have taken me a lot more time to magically sharpen and reinforce an icicle to such a degree. I'm glad to know that it works well for you, Meredith says. I assure that you, the Hexol faction, will be quite displeased with your action, Lady Meredith, says the Lassetti teleporting engineer, who seems to have calmed down a little since his last outburst. I will tell them about this matter personally. There is no need to inform them, Meredith says. I've already made my plans public shortly after I invited Kate and her friends here, and even if they had doubts on whether I would go through with it or not, they will surely find out that I was being serious when they'll see the scepter in Kate's hand. 3 times are changing, Grihert. You and your faction will just need to accept this. Hexol has been dead for years, yet you still name your group after him. At some point, you will have to accept reality for what it is. We will see about that. Griherd says in an acid tone. She kind of placed a marker on our back. Let us go, Meredith tells us. It is a long way from here to our main base of operation, as we should be on our way. Right, Darren says, as we begin to follow her through the dark tunnels lit by torches. While leaving the disgruntled Lassetti behind, I realized that I may have been a little unreasonable when I asked you to come here if you wanted the pinecone detector, Meredith says, while we are walking behind her, but I promise you that you will not regret your decision. I may not be able to erase what the Lassetti have done to you in the past, but I'm most certainly going to make them compensate you 100-fold for your troubles. Why are you going so far out of your way to help us? Eluna says. I thought the tournament organizers were supposed to remain neutral towards the participants. All friends of Diane's are friends of mine, including you, Iluna of the Sacredwood Massacre, Meredith says, as the rest of us exchange a few looks when we realize that she must have been aware of Flower's identity from the very beginning. I owe Diane a great debt after all the help that she has given me in these past 10 years since the Beacon of Hope was closed. Therefore, I intend to pay that debt to her in small installments whenever I get the opportunity. If there is anything that you need, anything at all, please do not hesitate to ask. I will do my best to accommodate your wishes. I don't recall having introduced myself, Eluna says. How could I be so bold as to inquire how you knew my name? I'm the leader of the Lassetti. Meredith says, I make it one of my top priorities to know as much as possible of what happens in Varathia. You two have made quite a name for yourself in the past 20 years, and it is also rumored that you have the Golden Fox's protection. It is only natural that I would at least know who you are. Fair enough, Eluna says. Meredith now pokes one of the ceridium walls a few times with a small metal rod, and a secret door opens up, allowing us to go into a hidden tunnel. You mentioned earlier that we would ask for anything we wanted. You mentioned earlier that we could ask for anything we wanted, I say as we enter the tunnel, and the door closes itself behind us. Does this include classified information? Because there's this secret code that is supposed to unlock the magical stats from my stat device, but from what I understood, only the highest ranking Lassetti are supposed to have knowledge of it. I do know the code that you're looking for, but I think you may have been slightly misled, Meredith says while we continue to walk through the semi-lit corridor. The magical stats do not work for regular Lassetti, they only work for half Lassetti. That is actually the main reason why the two stats were even locked, since half Lassetti were seen as inferior and could not be allowed to wield such power. My guess is that these stats have not been removed entirely from the devices because Lassetti from 600 or 700 years ago who created them was likely still hoping to find a way around this problem up until the moment when they were all annihilated during the still winter. At any rate, even if I do unlock these stats for you, you won't be able to use them. Actually, I'm a half Lassetti, not a regular one, I say. I actually tested those stats during emergency mode, so I know that they work for me. You're a half Lassetti? Meredith says. No, that can't be right. A romantic relationship between Lassetti and humans are strictly prohibited by our community, and besides, if you came here as a tournament participant, it would mean that you were living somewhere outside Varathia. That means that you and your parents must have somehow... Meredith suddenly stops in her tracks and she turns around to look at me, examining me from head to toe. May I ask what your age is? Meredith asks after a long pause. You don't look older than 30. Yes, I am 28 years old. Oh, he's only 2 years older than me. I answer her. 28 years, Meredith says as she seems to be doing some calculations inside her head. This is exactly how much time it's been since... She pauses. No, it can't be, Meredith says. But what if... She now uses the rod made of metal from before to tap her left shoulder once, and then she lightly taps my shoulder as well. Shortly upon contact with me, the tip of the rod begins to glow with a bright green light, while Meredith just stares at it in complete silence. Her auras match, Meredith says as she still seems to be recovering from the shock of what she's just seen. And what does that mean? I ask her. It means that we're related by blood, Meredith says. None of the options is just mommy. That's hilarious. Wait, so does that make me a Lassetti prince? I thought my real parents were supposed to have fled Varathia before I was born. I still can't get over that one of the options is mommy. That's hilarious. So that would be kind of embarrassing. I'm kind of mildly role-playing here, and I would rather not break that by saying that, even though that is kind of hilarious. This is not a meme thing. I thought my real parents were supposed to have fled Varathia before I was born. Well, she could be a sister. They did, Meredith says. My sister left Varathia with her lover while she was still pregnant with you. I'm your aunt, not your mother. Does that mean that you know what happened to my biological parents? I say. Yes, Meredith says. As she lowers her head, they were assassinated by orders of Lord Hexel, for illegally conceiving a half-human, half-Lassetti child and for leaving Varathia without his permission. But how were they able to leave, I say? I thought that only high-ranking Lassetti were supposed to have access to teleporting devices that were powerful enough to get you off this continent. I was the one who helped them escape. How far is the Varathian continent from other continents that they can't travel by boat or anything? I was the one who helped them escape, Meredith says. At that time I was working as Hexel's secretary, so I was able to obtain the activation code for his teleporter from his office without his knowledge. After that, all I had to do was pay someone to distract the guard so that my sister and her lover could teleport away from here without interference. You're telling me that you did all this and somehow still ended up as the new leader of Lassetti? I ask her, how did you manage to not get imprisoned? Hexel suspected me from the very beginning, but he couldn't find any definitive proof that I was the one who helped them. Meredith says, I was a very well-respected member of the Lassetti society even at that young age, so he couldn't just imprison me based on his own speculation. The only thing he was able to do at the time was to fire me from my position as his secretary. What happened afterward was that I eventually climbed the ranks through my own skill, and years later he was forced to accept me as his second-in-command despite his misgivings. She pauses. I'm really sorry that I never tried looking for you, Meredith tells me. When I said goodbye to my sister, we agreed that we would exchange no contact information whatsoever, so there would be no danger that her enemies would somehow find out her new address from me. I only learned about their deaths much later from some hidden document that I stumbled upon while rearranging the files in Hexel's older office. I didn't know your name, your place of birth, or even if you were still alive by that time. I couldn't think of any way to find you except for roaming the continent myself with this metal wand in my hand, hoping that someday its tip would turn green. To think that you would simply show up on my doorstep after all these years. So what do we do now? I say, do we hug? No, Meredith says. But your sudden appearance couldn't have come at a better time. His humor is so funny. He's such a meme lord. The way he jokes sometimes is so memey. Oh man.